Amazon Full Funnel in Action from strategy to #1 bestseller. And we are diving into our partnership with Illy to show how strategy translates into real performance. Anyone can talk about full funnel frameworks, but we're going to show you what it takes to turn that into a #1 bestseller. And I won't go over logistics again since I did that earlier. But again, please ask questions in the chat, comments, like we want to interact with you all, respond to polls. That makes all of this so much better. So please do that. Recording and slides will be sent to your inbox tomorrow. I know people typically have questions about that. And then I'm going to hand it over so that this crew can introduce themselves. Jessica, I'll kick it to you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jessica Imperato. I'm head of our omni-channel digital orchestration at Illy. Just working on our digital media strategy across all of our channels. And I partner closely with Carrie and Jordan and our Tinuiti team on building out our upper funnel strategy.
And I'll go next. I'm Carrie Casper, Senior Strategist at Tinuiti. I've been here roughly 4 years, but I've been in the commerce space 9 years, which is crazy to think at this point. Work very closely with Jess and Jordan on the Illy account, and I will pass it to Jordan.
Awesome. I'm Jordan Lampy. I'm a strategist on the commerce team, specializing in DSP. I work very closely with Jess and the Illy team to leverage more of streaming and upper funnel activations. So happy to be here. And I will kick it to the next slide where we do have a poll. In the poll tab on your right, you can access this poll and let us know, when it comes to upper funnel, are you driving growth or are you just hoping for it?
I was going to say, it looks like most people are saying we believe it's working, but proof is fuzzy. So that majority, and then next would be we struggle to connect it to revenue.
Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about what our challenge was here and how we leveraged Amazon to get success here. So the challenge was really a matter of scale, I'd say. So we have Illy as a brand in the US. We're an Italian brand. In the US, we have pretty low brand awareness and low visibility. And we operate in a category with really large brands as compared to us. So we recognized with the Tinuiti team that we needed to kind of build that demand earlier ahead of the Q4 period, which was really crucial to us and to the seasonality of our product. So that was kind of what drove the change in our approach, which was how do we kind of reach all the new consumers that we needed to kind of build that base ahead of time.
All right. And when we looked at the challenge, when Jess came to us and they were like, we need to grow market share. There's so many big players in the space. Where do we start? We started with asking Amazon first of what data do we have to inform our strategy? So I know a lot of within the poll, everyone's saying, upper funnel, we like it. The measurement's a little fuzzy. It's hard to measure. It's hard to understand, how these things play together. So before we even started a plan, we even talked about measurement. We first wanted to look at seasonality for the product. So Jess mentioned Q4 is incredibly crucial for coffee. And what we've heard from Amazon is specifically new to brand happens within Q4 as well. So you can see in this chart that Amazon pulled for us that even beating out Prime Day, we get more new to brand purchases during Q4, which is why we know it's so crucial, not only for net new incremental growth and reaching new users, but overall sales in general, and really giving a good start to the next year. We also knew that if we wanted to drive awareness earlier in the year, we had to identify what is driving that awareness. And we know video is king when it comes to content and really driving some of that awareness. We also had Amazon pull a path to purchase for us. And within this, we took a look and said, okay, video as a whole shows up in 9 of the 10 top paths to conversion, including streaming TV, Prime Video, OLV, other networks as well. And so because we found out that video was incredibly important, we knew that, had to be part of our strategy going into Q4. And the last thing we took a look at more specifically, and at the time we were doing this, Prime Video was relatively new, but we found that Prime Video was such premium inventory and had really strong overlap across the funnel as well. So not only with awareness metrics, but purchase metrics as well, we're seeing really good results. We knew that was something we wanted to leverage within this performance. I think when we talk about upper funnel, it's really hard a lot of times, and I'm sure Jess, you know this more than anybody, is when you're talking internally to your leadership teams, it's really difficult to say, we need all this budget to run upper funnel. We really don't know how it will perform. And so some of this is really like testing up front to say, we know what will work to inform the strategy. So you kind of just have to go for it and at a smaller level and see what works and build that into the strategy. But this is some of the data that really helped inform our strategy of where we're shifting this spend overall. And that brings us into our strategy.
Awesome. So kind of how Carrie mentioned, we definitely looked at the data first before we started to build the strategy. But in Q2, we started testing streaming channels. So we started kind of dipping our toes in the water to see what worked, what inventory sources worked, what targeting worked as well, in order to prove out and analyze that data and prove out that we were able to leverage this for Q4 for our strategy, more so on the seasonal side of it. And so with our strategy, we knew we didn't have a lot of creative. And so we had to get more creative within the targeting and with inventory sources. So how are we going to more so scale at an efficient rate and still drive performance? And that was looking at audience targeting, looking at more inventory sources, and Prime Video really emerged as that like new inventory source, the premium inventory, and really let us build out that full funnel approach and then lead to the kind of downstream impact. So what we did is we built out a pre and a post strategy for this more so like new to brand acquisition focus. And we leveraged each of these ad types for the success. So instead of just being in the mid funnel or lower funnel kind of jail area, we really dove into streaming and online video and upper funnel and used diversified inventory sources and targeting and leverage the same creative across all different ad types. So being able to leverage it across streaming, online video, sponsored brand video, and then display and search as well. And we saw a really strong success there, being able to reach a user from the top of the funnel and then bring them to that final conversion point. And the results were very strong. So it really did prove out our hypothesis that if we kind of took the risk and we gambled and put a majority of our budget within new to brand and customer acquisition focus, it was going to prove out to have a really strong, not only downstream impact, but total impact. So with that, we were driving qualified users to the PDPs and driving really strong traffic that led us to be the #1 bestseller badge for ground coffee, which gave us a 25% gain in market share and not only led us above our total sales goal, we did see a 99% increase in new to brand year over year. Within the new to brand, we saw a 43% growth in orders as well, and then total revenue grew at a really strong rate. And I think this really just proved out that us focusing on more so let's reach new users. And the moment we drive them into the PDP, we knew that the products and that our PDP content would do the rest of the work for that conversion. We just had to get the right people to our Amazon pages. And then when we're looking at more so like measuring of the success, so I think these were the 4 pillars we really looked at, was maximizing reach, making sure that we're having efficient CPMs through more so diversified inventory. So not just Prime Video, we did leverage different inventory. We leveraged standard streaming as well. And we were able to be a little bit more efficient within that, as well as the premium inventory access. We didn't just stop at Prime Video. We didn't just stop at standard streaming. We leveraged Hulu and Disney Plus and HBO Max through the Amazon DSP, accessing those high quality audiences and targeting and driving those users to Amazon, which resulted in about a 44% increase in branded searches. So not only showing that users are being reached, and then they're also making an action after seeing our streaming ads. So coming to Amazon and searching for an illy product, which also led to that increase in new to brand quarter over quarter because of that consistent streaming strategy and not taking our foot off the pedal when we started. It is definitely something that's like not going to be an immediate return. If we were only pushing this the month of Prime Day or the month of Prime Big Deal Days, you don't see that impact immediately. It's more so a long haul process. And the illy team got on board for us to say, hey, we need to invest in a long-term growth instead of a short-term growth. And we've continued that strategy moving forward, which we will get into in the next slide. So I'll pass it over to Jess.
Yeah, so as Jordan mentioned, so we did this test, and now how do we keep that momentum up is really kind of based on these 3 pillars of how we keep moving forward. So testing, they spoke about the test that we did, and now that's kind of just embedded in our plan always. We have a dedicated budget there, and we're continuously looking for, testing new things and opportunities of how to take advantage of them going forward. And then also always on streaming is also just always on for us now with the amazing results that you guys saw from this one use case. We're the main strategy there, the main goal is to continue to feed that new to brand. That we doubled the new to brand, which was, incredible for us. And that's the way that we have to keep working here, again, with our low brand awareness and visibility, just to continue to fill that funnel is most important. And then measurement, of course, we saw all the different ways, but it really underpins the whole strategy that monitoring the parts of the funnel, so the consideration, et cetera, but also our total shoppers. As I said, the base is really important to make sure that we are shifting the dollars around according to how the performance is evolving.
All right. So looking at key takeaways, I think when we're developing a strategy like this, and what we want you guys to take away from this is that taking a look at the funnel overall is really important. So when we talk about measurement, there are some things you measure at the lower funnel that you don't at upper funnel. You can't tie your streaming TV, your Prime Video to a ROAS goal, mainly because that's not the focus. The idea is awareness, driving branded searches, really measuring these things at the top funnel where it's meant to be, and then seeing the efficiency gains in the lower funnel because of that. Test strategically. One thing, Jordan alluded to is we tested a lot ahead of time. A lot of different networks, a lot of different targeting, really seeing what worked well before we really went full funnel and added more budget in there. So that was really important. And I think we alluded to as well, video content is really important to plan for, but as long as you have a video to start, that can help you identify what the strategy is. Don't let it be a blocker. Use a video to start, see how it performs. And as you get more results, you get more sophisticated, implement and plan for different videos or more specific videos to the strategy. And I'll say the last part of this, outside of just making sure every piece of the funnel is fully funded, is develop that testing budget. So if you have a % of your budget set aside specifically for these testing opportunities, you don't have to hold it as much to a KPI because the goal is to evolve Ads are always changing. The media landscape is always changing. So as these things are changing, you need to identify what works well and roll anything into an always-on evergreen strategy. So always test and see what works.
Awesome. Thank you all. This was a really great session. I'm just checking the chat to see if we have any questions, but I don't see any. So if anybody has any last minute questions, throw them in the chat really quickly. But no, that was awesome to hear from all of you. So really appreciate you joining us today for this session. Jenny, actually, sorry, I'm checking the chat again. Jenny asked, for testing, do you have recommended start budgets? Especially upper funnel.
Definitely. I can answer this one. So I think it obviously varies on the type of brand and the budget. I think what we like to do is start about 5% of your total budget to put towards testing and set aside, and not have a revenue KPI tied to that. Because I think with testing, it's a test. We don't know how it's going to perform. And so we want to make sure that we have that set aside and we have that kind of acknowledged across the whole company of this is not going to be tied to revenue. So when you're talking to your leadership, that this is not held to revenue, because we don't know how it'll perform. So we like to do about 5% of budget and keep it at a monthly rate. And I know you just also asked about how do we optimize for ROAS and new to brand. So I think when it looks at new to brand on the upper funnel is increasing our exclusion audiences, making sure make a more of a broad reach. So some of those segments that are broader, but not casting too wide of a net, because we want to make sure we're still reaching quality audiences, but just making sure we're deduping and reaching people. Frequency caps are really great in order to make sure we're reaching unique users, but also excluding those audiences so we're not reaching users again and again. So understanding the life cycle of your product as well. And then within ROAS, within the lower funnel tactics, making sure we're testing those windows of, does it make sense if someone sees a streaming ad, which you can pull through AMC as well, how long does it take them to convert, and make sure we're reaching those windows. So more so testing there to understand the life cycle, to understand how many frequency points it takes for someone to convert and the window for them to convert in order to optimize.
And I'll add to that ROAS piece too, one more, is making sure, like Jordan said, look at the lower funnel, not only with display campaigns, but also search. One thing we typically see when we're implementing more upper funnel strategies, like a streaming or a video strategy in general, is we get a lot of branded searches. So people will see the ad, they'll see us, that we're following them around the internet, and they'll perform a branded search. And making sure you're fully funded and your brand is visible when that's happening versus competitors there is incredibly important. So really, the upper funnel should not be tied to a ROAS at all, but you should see some of those efficiencies within the low funnel increasing.
Thank you both for answering that. All right. We have a couple more sessions today. We have 2 panels to round out day 1 of the Amazon Retail Media Summit. So make sure to stick with us. We are going to take a quick 5-minute reset, go grab a drink. Up next, panel Performance Plus AMC, how Amazon DSP is actually evolving. Top off your coffee, something stronger if you need it. We're not asking questions here, and we're going to see you back in 5. Thanks, everybody.